Today, the committee continues to examine the Obama administration's nuclear diplomacy with Iran as we get set for a congressional review of a possible and hugely consequential agreement. As we speak, U.S. negotiators in Vienna face another deadline. And while we don't have an agreement in front of us, we know the troubling outline taking shape. Just a few months ago, 367 members of Congress signed a letter, Ranking Member Engel and I led, stating that any final agreement must last for multiple decades and include full disclosure of Iran's past efforts to build a nuclear weapon, must include a dramatic reduction in the number of centrifuges, and most importantly, intrusive inspection and verification measures. A few weeks ago, several of President Obama's former advisors signed an open letter echoing these same concerns and warned that these negotiations may fall short of meeting the administration's own standard of a good agreement. Indeed, one witness with us today wrote back, when these negotiations began, that a good enough agreement would have Iran giving up all but a minimal enrichment capacity, agree to intrusive inspections, and would be an agreement that could guarantee the reimposition of sanctions. But that's not even close to where the negotiations are right now. The most robust and intensive inspections, and this was the original goal, the most robust and intrusive inspections and transparency regime ever negotiated for any nuclear program in history has morphed instead into an agreement of what's now discussed as managed access, with the Iranians having a big say in where international inspectors can go, where international inspectors cannot go. Managed access is a big backaway from the anywhere, anytime terms that the administration once demanded. But to be clear, under this agreement, Iran doesn't even have to cheat to be a few steps away from the bomb. Iran is not required to dismantle key bomb-making technology. It is permitted a vast enrichment capacity. It is allowed to continue its research and development to gain an industrialized nuclear program once the agreement begins to expire in as little as 10 years. That is hardly the original concept of decades of a long-range agreement. And frankly, it's hardly all but minimal enrichment that was the original goal as well. Meanwhile, Iran continues to develop its ballistic missile capabilities. After Iran's supreme leader called demands to restrict its missile program a stupid, idiotic expectation, in his words, U.S. negotiators backed off this key demand. Instead, Iran is still able to mass produce its ballistic missiles as the supreme leader has ordered. If you'll recall his quote at the time, he said, "It's the responsibility of every military man to figure out how to help mass produce ICBMs." We ought to be concerned, really concerned, about that attitude. That attitude and some of his additional suggestions about what he'd like to do to the United States. One witness told the committee last month that no country that has not aspired to possess nuclear weapons has ever opted to sustain a costly long-range missile program. Already, U.S. intelligence estimates Iran to have the largest arsenal of ballistic missiles in the entire Middle East. Simply put, countries build ICBMs to have the capability to deliver nukes. Not to mention that the terrorist state of Iran will be flush with cash. Reportedly, Iran will receive somewhere in the range of $50 billion under this agreement up front, $150 billion over the entire length of the agreement. Now, that would be 25 times the annual budget of Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps. Such a huge amount will breathe life into Iran's economy, but it will also fund a new generation of terrorism in the region and beyond. We should be worried when Iran announces, as they recently did, that they will help rebuild the tunnels in Gaza, that they will transfer missiles to Hamas, and recently that they will provide 100,000 rockets and missiles for Hezbollah with new technology which will allow precision guidance systems so that those rockets and missiles can hit targets across Israel. At every step in this process, whether it's enrichment capacity, missile development, or sanctions relief, the Obama administration has discounted the fundamental nature of the regime in Iran. Death to America isn't domestic spin in Iran. It's the regime's rallying cry. And tomorrow, on Friday, they will once again celebrate Quds Day. And since 1979, since the foundation of the revolution, that is the day that they set aside to celebrate for the destruction of Israel. As one witness concludes, President Obama is agreeing to dismantle the sanctions regime permanently. In return, Iran is agreeing to slow the development of its nuclear program temporarily. That's a bad deal for us. Permanent concessions in exchange for temporary benefits. And that's only if Iran doesn't cheat, like North Korea cheated. So Iran is left a few steps away from the bomb and more able to dominate the region. This is my take on this. And how does that make us and our allies more secure, or conflict less likely? That is the bottom line this committee will continue to look at. Few issues are more important. I now turn to the ranking member for any opening comments that he may have.